Sveiki sugrįžę į What's Next Talks, pokalbių tinklalaidės, kurių tikslas sukurti ateities kūrybinių industrijų žemėlapį. Aš esu Živilė ir kartu su Monika pristatome jums naujausias ir aktualiausias tendencijas, kurios daro didelę įtaką ne tik kūrybinėms industrijoms, bet ir mūsų kasdieniam gyvenimui. Šiandien yra paskutinė mūsų sezono serija, todėl noriu pristatyti labai ypatingą epizodą skirtą Ukrainai. Tai viena novatoriškiausių ir sėkmingiausių 2022 metų kampanijų Backup Ukraine. Kalbėsime su šio nuostabaus projekto, kuris iš tikrųjų reprezentuoja kūrybiškumo galią ekstremalių įvykių akivaizdoje kūrėjais ir kaip Web3 gali įgalinti žmones daryti stebuklus. Šį kartą didelės įžangos nereikia, nes net nebejoju, kad šiuo atveju geriau išgirsti visas detalės tiesiai iš kūrėjų. Jie pasidalins su mumis išskirtiniais projekto užkulisiais ir nežinomomis detalėmis apie šios itin sėkmingos, visus pagrindinius reklamos apdovanojimus per pastaruosius metus pelniusios kampanijos kūrimą. Tiesiogiai iš kūrėjų išgirsime visą informaciją apie naudotas technologijas, kliūtis ir istorijas, su kuriomis jiems teko susidurti, kad kiekvienas turintis išmanųjį telefoną galėtų prisidėti prie meno ir istorijos Ukrainoje išsaugojimo.
Hello, and welcome to Virtue Agency powered by Vice. My name is Monika, and here at Virtue offices, I'm going to be chatting to some interesting people from creative world, from marketing world, and hopefully we'll engage you into some interesting stories that we have to share. So today with me, I have Chrissy Smith, who is our senior art director. And Chrissy has recently been acknowledged as a top 5 art director by Cannes globally. And also, as part of a Virtue team, she has taken home 10 Cannes Lions, right, for the project Backup Ukraine. And this is what we're meeting to talk about, Backup Ukraine. So, Christy, can you tell me about the project and how it started? Let's go back to the very beginning.
Yeah,
tell
sure.
us from the start.
So I think when we figured out that there was a war in Ukraine, obviously we wanted to do something to help. And one of the targets that Putin obviously had to destroy the country was to destroy all of the heritage, the buildings, the monuments, and the thing that defines Ukraine as a nation. So we were like, is there a way that we can tap into this and figure out a way to help preserve it? And we already knew about the tech that we used for this project. We knew about Polycam, which is the app behind Ukraine, or like the scanning process or the scanning technology that we used. So we tried out to go down to a park actually and try out to see if we use this technology to scan a monument, could it actually work? Like how good quality does it come out in, and would it actually be something that you can use in a way? So we went down to like a local park, and there was like a Ukrainian statue there that we tried to scan, and the result we got from that was insanely high resolution. So we're like, okay, imagine if you could actually scan all the things that could potentially be ruined, and then you have a digital backup. So that was an interesting point for us, that suddenly a tool that everyone can have in their hands, like this app is available for everyone in Ukraine. Or we've made it possible that it's available for everyone in Ukraine. But imagine that anyone with a smartphone can go down, scan a monument, scan something that they care about, and actually back it up to a cloud where they can always go back and actually have so detailed, what can you say, like pictures and data and files and everything that you can rebuild it one-to-one if it gets destroyed.
So to clarify, in kind of simple terms, Backup Ukraine is a project that allows you to scan monuments and buildings on your phone, and back up everything onto the cloud. And it was specifically developed for Ukrainian people.
It was an app that already existed, so you could already scan other things. It's probably, known very well for if you want to scan, let's say, this little cat that's on the table, and you wanted to, make it as a 3D model, or recreate something in gaming. That's what the app, the primary, I think, purpose for it is. So we already knew it was out there, but what we did is that we contacted Polycam and we told them about the idea of using it for good and using it in a situation where you could scan monuments and things in Ukraine that was like obviously being threatened by the war. So we got in contact with them and explained them about the idea, and they were very much up for getting involved. But obviously we didn't want to make any money or charge anyone to use an app to save the culture's heritage. So we made it available for free for everyone in Ukraine, and we made sure to also, shift from iOS to Android, because that's the most used system they have in Ukraine as well. So yeah, and then obviously made sure that all the backups, there was unlimited space in the cloud, so it wasn't like you could only scan 2 things and then you're done. So we wanted to make sure that it was as easy and as accessible as possible for everyone in Ukraine to be able to use.
And how did you communicate that? I mean, how did people know about it in the first place in Ukraine? That they can, I assume, download this app and then use it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we had a lot of social assets and people that we contacted in Ukraine involved, so we could get people on ground to also, get out there and help us create some content, tell their friends. And then I think when the project started rolling, some Ukraine news got involved as well. But I think in general, it's very much about getting volunteers involved. So get people in Ukraine feel like they're part of a project to help build it. So it's not just, paying someone to go do it, but more just make sure that people feel like they're part of something bigger. And I think you can say that it's somehow become like a movement in a sense within that, which we're really proud of and very happy that people want to contribute with, yeah.
And to my knowledge, there was an involvement from UNESCO in this as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's important to say that we had a lot of partners involved in this. And normally when you have a project, you have only a few partners involved. But I think a big learning from this is that the more the better, in a sense. So we also had Blue Shield involved, and it's kind of like a Red Cross, but for more sort of buildings and heritage as well. So we got them involved as well, and obviously Polycam itself, and then we have a lot of other smaller organizations to help. Another partner that we had involved was someone called Skyrun. Normally they scan things for architectural purposes that are bigger, but now because they got involved in the Backup Ukraine case, they've started to also actually use their drone footage and stuff to back up bigger monuments around Ukraine.
Oh, really?
Which is really amazing.
So basically they're using drones that are flying around the country and scanning huge buildings into the
and churches and all of those bigger things where it's hard for a normal person with a smartphone to be able to reach, right? So that's really amazing that they've actually kind of changed their infrastructure of the company as well to do more of this, which is great.
What are people scanning? What actually people are scanning?
At this point, we have 35,000 scans in Ukraine. A lot of them are obviously, monuments or buildings that people care about, but we really also see a lot of personal things that people scan.
Like what?
Children scanning their toys. I think the emotional part of this has really, hit us quite hard, because if there's a war, imagine here in the UK or in your own country, I think people want to save as many things as they can as possible. And when a tool allows for that, I think you just want to try and see what else you could potentially save and do a digital backup of in case it gets destroyed. So it's been really great to see how many things people have started to scan.
And they can scan live things as well as
people scan their animals, which is quite funny. Obviously, it's an easier tool to do something still as you're walking around a subject and scanning it, or taking a lot of pictures of the same target, and then AI actually puts it together to the final image. So it's easier with something that stands still than something that is moving. But yes, we've seen people scan their dogs in their homes. Yeah.
Okay, so if coming to the very beginning, how the concept or the idea of scanning buildings or objects kind of popped into your head?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
I mean, one thing obviously was that we saw people on ground trying to save their monuments with tape and bubble wrap, which we were oh damn, they really care about all these, important things that are around their countries. But another thing that also really sparked our imagination and like really, you know, inspired us to get going with this project was when Notre Dame burned down. Obviously that was a horror we all saw on TV, but we also saw that in Assassin's Creed they've recreated it and they had like a 3D backup of, or like a 3D scanning of it there, so they could use that to build it up again.
Oh right, because the blueprints didn't exist.
Yeah, exactly, because it was destroyed already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically they found the blueprints in the game.
Yeah.
So the actual project that was existing in so-called Web3 reality, if gaming is part of it, was brought into life.
Exactly.
Kind of in a reverse way, if you like.
Yeah.
So that sparked the idea as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what's been done within this, but we were like, imagine if we can give people the option to help do this themselves. And I think that's what differentiates, you know, the Backup Ukraine project from, you know, a lot of other cases, is that we're getting so many people on ground involved to be able to save stuff that matters for the country, but also for themselves. But definitely inspired by the gaming industry for sure.
There's also an element of crowdsourcing, I guess. Everybody is chipping in to save the country. That must be unifying. Well, you would hope so.
No, definitely, but I think it's also a new way of thinking of like using your audience in a sense. Like, in a lot of times we speak to people and ask them to, you know, look at our ad, this is great entertainment, but actually taking action and see people more as volunteers is a really great way of getting people involved in a more natural way. So that's been a great learning from this project for sure.
And of course, this is a terrible tragedy and kind of a human catastrophe. But at the same time, you know, something very creative was born out of that. And congratulations on Cannes Awards and the back of that. How did that feel? Was it the first time you were in Cannes?
I was in Cannes when I was a junior creative for the first time, just like hunting CDs to like watch my book and look at my work. So it's definitely a very different experience to go down there and be on stage like several times and celebrate with like an amazing team, and just, you know, it's an amazing experience to be there. Yeah, still feel very overwhelmed about it.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Christy, and thank you for everybody for tuning in.
Nuostabu, kaip mes galime panaudoti technologijas tokiais nuostabiais būdais. Tai, ką jie padarė su Backup Ukraine, išties įspūdinga. Bet tai tik pradžia. Laukia daug daugiau, kuo turėsime stebėtis. Tikėkimės, kad ateityje bus dar daug visko, kuo dalinsimės su jumis. Tai buvo paskutinė mūsų pirmojo sezono serija. Esame be galo dėkingi visiems, kurie kartu su mumis keliavote. Ačiū ir iki greito pasimatymo. Jei norite prisijungti prie mūsų kelionės ir nuolat praturtinti save naujausiomis žiniomis apie ateities tendencijas, nepamirškite užsiprenumeruoti, spausti patinka ir įjungti pranešimus, kad nepraleistumėte kito vaizdo įrašo. Labai ačiū, kad žiūrėjote ir nepamirškite, būkite geri, būkite kūrybingi ir smalsūs. What's next?